part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
The 1-1 pitch. Swinging a drive to deep right. Away back. Goal!
And with that Hemi call, it's time for another episode of Guardians of the Land MLB podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I am Mike Vorhies. He is Bryan Shaw. We're going to bring you some Guardians talk. Bryan, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. It's been another interesting 2 weeks for the Cleveland Guardians, more ups and downs. They had a stretch of some games that were very winnable against some not so great teams. And I'm not entirely thrilled with the record of some of those bad teams, specifically against Detroit. I think we'd be looking at this team a lot differently if they were able to secure some of those victories, but they're still an interesting and fun team to watch. And I have some hope that they could, if some things come together, that this could be a very exciting team going forward.
I couldn't agree with you more. I was excited yesterday when we talked about recording. Team was on a 4-game winning streak, looking good. They looked like they were turning that corner. Then, unfortunately, this afternoon, we have a hiccup and our winning streak is no more. We have lost to Baltimore, but I'm going to stay positive. The team had chances to win this game today.
Yeah, especially in the 8th inning. Stephen Kwan had a leadoff double. Straw got him over to third. They ended up walking Jose Ramirez. They hit Owen Miller. And unfortunately, Josh Naylor pops out, flies out, and isn't able to play any of those guys. So there was opportunity. Tristan still actually had a pretty good game, despite kind of what the box score says.
Right.
A little bit of a tough one today.
A little bit. I mean, let's talk about it. The Guardians now, after today's game, 23-25. They are 4.5 games back in the division, and they're 1.5 games out in the wild card race, which I know it's still very early, and why I mentioned that stat, I don't know, but we won't talk about wild card yet. But I mean, this team was showing signs of life. They were winners of 4 straight, but just looking at these last few games, I mean, games against, like you said, Bryan, teams with losing records like Detroit. We own Detroit, and Detroit has beaten us more this year than I can remember in seasons past. Am I missing something? Has Detroit gotten that much better, or are we just not playing our best when we play them?
Yeah, it's tough to say what it is. They didn't look great against Detroit when they were here and when we were there. Those games are tough because if they squeeze out, they're 2 games under 500 right now. If they squeeze out maybe today and then win 2 others against Detroit, then in that case, you're only a couple of games behind the Twins and you're game over 500 going into the early part here of June. And like I said, we're just kind of talking about this team in a little bit of a different way. They've still been exciting to watch. The pitching has gotten significantly better since we kind of talked maybe about a month ago. But then unfortunately, on the other side of things, the bats have quieted down. We do have, for April, they were 4th in batting average at batting 251. The batting average in May dropped to 240, and that dropped them to 20th in May at batting average. OPS, they're 23rd in May at only a 681, and then back in April, they were 6th in OPS at 723. Then on the other hand, the pitching, the ERA for our pitchers in April was a 3.91. That was 22nd. Now it's a 3.74 in May, and that's good enough for 10th. But they're up to, in May, they were 4th in opponent batting average. Batters against them were only batting 221. But combined here, the bullpen, which we had talked about was a big question mark coming into the season, 1st in Major League Baseball in opponent batting average.
I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. I think I had something in my ear. Could you repeat that? Did you just say we have the best bullpen in Major League Baseball?
Depending on what stat you want to pull. If you want to say it's ERA, they're 4th best at 3.17.
Let's give a shout out to the bullpen. I mean, my goodness, they were a big question mark for me. going into the season. Let's see if they can continue this trend, and they may actually get stronger with a familiar face returning to the fold, but we'll talk about that in a minute. What we need to talk about, though, Bryan, the injuries. The injury bug has finally bit the Guardians a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't say too bad, but yes,
It could be a lot worse. You're absolutely right.
They are struggling a little bit, and that could help, especially when it comes to Franmil Reyes potentially coming back, or if he comes back, because when we were talking about the pitching and the batting, this month pitching's been very good, batting hasn't. Last month batting was very good, pitching wasn't. If those can come together,
right,
and they can start rattling off some wins. But yeah, Franmil, he has a bad hammy.
Yeah.
See, for me though, this injury is interesting because I had texted you back on.
He's going into the archives here.
I texted you on the 13th, on April 13th.
Okay.
And I said, I think Franmil popped his hammy because he was running gingerly.
Yeah.
And then it's like nothing happened. Like there was nothing that came out of that. Then they put him on the injured list on the 26th and said it was a hamstring injury. So I thought that was really weird. And I kind of have a little bit of a theory about it.
I wonder if potentially maybe Franmil didn't think it was a big deal. And I wonder if he continued to play on it and it got progressively worse.
That could be. Or I wonder if this is one of those injuries that you see with a pitcher sometimes, where when they're not playing great, all of a sudden they have a back injury. And it's one of those things where they're just not right. They need to give them some time to rest, kind of figure out what's not going well. They put them on a rehab assignment. They spend some time in AA, spend some time in AAA, and work things back over the course of a few weeks. I wonder if that's what's going on here with Franmil, because I'm sure there's any guy on the team right now that you could take one of their minor injuries and say, yep, we got to put him on the injured list. He's got a tight left glute and he needs to go on the injured list.
Oh, poking fun at Aaron Savali. Not nice, Bryan. Not nice. You're leading right into what I was going to say. Before we talk about Aaron Savali, real quick with Franmil, and we'll talk about something that ties in with this here in a minute. But I'm actually happy that Franmil's on the injured list, because if he's going to be the Franmil that we expect him to be, I want him healthy. I want him mentally ready. He has just looked lost.
Yeah. And that's why I think that they did this, because they want him to spend some time in the cage, spend some time with the hitting coach, needs to improve on his approach. Then, send him on a rehab assignment here for a little while and get some batting against AA pitchers and AAA pitchers and get his confidence back up. And then he can hit his stride when he gets back with the major league team.
Yep. And so we'll talk about Franmil here in a little bit. Two other injuries of note for the Guardians. Bryan made a joke about left glute tightness. That would be Aaron Savali, placed on the 15-day injured list with a left glute injury. I joked with you when he left this start. I remember texting you and he pulled a butt muscle and had to come out of the game. And I just thought that was funny, but he then has a bullpen session and something definitely doesn't feel right. Had a conversation with Tito and pitching coach Carl Willis, and the team decided to put him on the injured list. He is eligible to come off the injured list on June 6th. However, he has not had a rehab start, so I have a feeling that may be pushed a few days.
Yeah, I had read that they had to drain something, like blood buildup. So very odd injury. I hope this isn't something that started off small and started off as like, oh yeah, it's just some muscle tightness. And because even when that injury happened, kind of same thing with Franmil, the guys on the broadcasts were talking about like, oh yeah, he's probably fine and going to make his next start. And then all of a sudden he didn't, and they put him on the injured list. And then we're hearing that he's having all these issues. as he's trying to do rehabs and trying to do bullpens, and that this injury is lingering. So I really hope it's not something that sticks around for a month or two, because we need good Aaron Savali in this rotation. We can't. I don't.
And
think
he
we
was
can
starting.
afford- Yeah.
Aaron was starting to look like the Aaron Savali of old. So yes, as long as this injury does not derail that, I'm on board. Let's get him healthy. It's still early in the season. I like what our starting pitching has done. Connor Pilkington has filled in admirably for him. He's looked really good as the throw-in piece to the Cesar Hernandez trade. We might have to do a pod at some point and talk about how great our front office is when we make trades.
Just all the guys that we've gotten in trade.
I think we need
there
to.
Could be an entire pod just based off the Mike Clevenger trade.
I think so.
Which we've talked about in the past, but
we may have to do that trade or that pod here real soon. But another injury, James Karinchak. Yes, Mr. Wild Thing himself. He's been on the 60-day IL with a mild right shoulder strain. He's actually in Columbus on a rehab assignment. I'm excited. They said his velocity is up. His control looks good. Can he be the Karinchak of old? Can he be the Wild Thing and be that dominant guy out of the pen that we so desperately need?
That would be great, because even though the bullpen has been phenomenal, there have been a couple of instances with Nick Sandlin.
You want Trevor Stephan?
Stephan? Yes, Nick Sandlin and Trevor Stephan, where they've gotten into some trouble and they've come close to blowing a couple of games, and they just happen to get out of it. I mean, there was a couple of games ago where it looked like Sandlin was just couldn't find the strike zone. He was all over the place, and somehow, some way, he weaseled his way out of that inning. So I do think that they need another bullpen arm, and I think Karinchak would be phenomenal if, like you said, if he has his control. If he's going to be the Karinchak we saw towards the end of last season, where he was all over the place after alleged not having spider tack anymore.
Sticky stuff, yes.
We'll see. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then sad news for the Guardians. I don't know if it's necessarily sad news. I mean, it is, but it's not. The team has said goodbye to infielder extraordinaire Yu Chang. The team designated Yu Chang for assignment and then traded him to the Pittsburgh Pirates. This is one of those guys that just couldn't be consistent. I wish him the best. I know that he has gone 19 at-bats without a hit so far. He was in Pittsburgh's lineup today, and they actually pulled him for a pinch hitter who got a single. Pittsburgh's been ravaged with injuries, and I wish him the best in his future endeavors. I really wish, though, he could have gotten it figured out here in Cleveland, Bryan.
Yeah, that's a tough one. More, I think, because he's a name that we've known for a while and there was some promise with him, but he didn't have a hit for us this season in 10 at bats. With some of the more younger guys coming up and with the plethora of middle infielders that we have, I just don't think that there was a spot for him anymore. And there is a chance for him in Pittsburgh.
I don't think there will be a long.
Yeah, it could be like a Logan Allen thing where when we get rid of him and he goes somewhere else, he's not potentially there for very long. Do you know what we got back for Yu Chang?
Wasn't it $1?
That was Jet Johnson.
Oh, that was Daniel Johnson. What did we get back for Yu Chang?
I don't know. That's why I asked.
A bucket of balls, sure. Maybe. I don't know. I don't think his
for Yu Chang.
I may have been. I think his time in Pittsburgh will be short. They've got a couple guys coming back off the injured list, and I think they were just taking a flyer on him, hoping that maybe he could find something. I hope. Yu's only 26. He's still considerably young in baseball years. We'll see if he can figure it out. Maybe he'll be back with Cleveland sometime down the road. Who knows? He may go to the Yankees and be the second coming of Babe Ruth. Who knows? I mean, baseball is one of those fickle things, but I wish him the best. However, sending Yu Chang to Pittsburgh opened a roster spot, Bryan. And that roster spot went to Oscar Gonzalez, outfielder from the Clippers. And my, oh my, do we have another up-and-coming player? Where did this guy come from?
You know, Carlos Gonzalez has been, or Carlos
Cargo.
Gonzalez.
No, we can't talk about Cargo. It's not
Oscar Gonzalez.
Cargo. My goodness. Where's Brent, man? Oh my goodness. He'd be all over me for this one. Oh no, we're not talking about Cargo. Oscar, though. We have too many Oscars on this team. We're just going to call him, let's call him Gonzo. There we go. We'll call him Gonzo and we'll go from there.
Let's get back to Mercado there in a second. But yes, Gonzo has come up on fire. He's an outfield power bat that they've been lacking for a long time, and there's been talk about him coming up through the minors. I think in 162 games in minor league play amongst AA, AAA, he's hit 40 home runs. So, you know, you're not expecting that from him necessarily right away at the majors, but he has power. And we have Stephen Kwan now. We have Oscar Gonzalez coming up. Eventually, George Valera is going to be here as well.
Yep.
You could see him up in AAA soon. They're doing everything at the minor league level when it comes to outfielders and getting guys that we haven't seen with this team in a very long time. Of finally getting some quality hitting outfielders and some power bats for the outfield.
And this guy, not only can he hit, I watched him throw a seed to home plate and get an outfield assist on an amazing tag from Austin Hedges the other night. So his defense, I guess, has been a little bit of a question. He doesn't have that strong of an arm, but I'll tell you what, the throw from right field to home plate and then Austin Hedges lunging at the runner coming home. I mean, could he be here to stay?
I think he's here to stay. He just continues to hit. It's as Stephen Kwan has cooled off, Oscar Gonzalez has kind of taken his spot. I love the walk-up music of SpongeBob SquarePants. I was at the second home game where he was using his walk-up the other day.
That was against Kansas City.
And I can tell you that the kids at the game were loving it. Like, and that's what he said he wanted to do.
Who doesn't love SpongeBob? I mean, come on. I'm an adult and I love SpongeBob. Let's go.
By the fourth at bat for Oscar, like all of the stadium was singing SpongeBob SquarePants because they were letting it play through too. I have a feeling it's going to be kind of one of those things. What was it? The Nationals, the guy that had the Baby Shark song, walk-up song, and then the entire stadium would be singing Baby Shark.
I think that was Gerardo Parra.
Yeah,
yes.
I have a feeling that's going to be something like this, where eventually you're going to see like a big screen for it and like graphics for it and memes and
do what works
to hit.
Well, yeah, we talked about Yu Chang not having a hit in 19 at bats. Oscar Gonzalez has had 29 at bats with the Guardians. He's hitting 379 with 3 doubles, 2 RBIs. I don't know how well he did today, Bryan. I did not take a look at his box score. Let me take a quick peek here as I
do believe he got a hit today.
So he's now hitting 364. I mean, this is incredible, this guy. I mean, and in AAA, he was 282 with 9 home runs and 33 RBIs. I think Richie Palacios is the odd man out. I think he'll go back to AAA if and when Franmil Reyes comes back. But the future's bright, man. You said George Valera. We didn't even talk about Will Brennan, who's destroying the baseball right now. And he's not even on the Guardians' like top 50 prospect list.
Yeah. So they have some big promising up and comers. I do wonder if Palacios is the odd man out.
I think unfortunately he can be. The only thing I think that may help him is he does play second base as well as the outfield. I don't know if that'll help him, because if Jimenez is hitting and Miller is hitting and Rosario continues to hit, where are you going to play him?
Well, you're going to DFA Oscar Mercado, and then we'll only have one Oscar on the team.
Whoa. That's big. That's big for them to get rid of Oscar Mercado. But then that'd be okay, because then we're down to one Oscar, and that's, that'll
Now,
work. But
Oscar's defense has been pretty clutch, but he's only
Mercado is very good.
He's only
with
been
the
batting
glove.
190. He has 19 hits versus Palacios' 15, and Palacios has less than half of the at bats that Mercado does.
And Palacios hits left-handed. Mercado hits right-handed, but Mercado balked up this winter, and he'd hit the long ball to start the season, and now he has cooled off dramatically. So again, we're going to be maybe into a little bit of a roster issue with the Guardians. What do they do if Franmil comes back? Where's Mercado going to go? You can't take Quan out of the lineup. You can't take Straw out of the lineup. I don't want to see Josh Naylor in right field. We'll talk about Josh Naylor here in a little bit. I don't want to see him in the outfield anymore. Like, I like Oscar Gonzalez. So
yeah, and
decisions.
And you also have, at times, they've played Ernie Clement in left field.
Yeah.
They've played Ahmed Rosario in left field. So I think Oscar Mercado's time is ticking with the team. I could be wrong, because they have at times played the option game, and Richie has options left.
And I know I think Mercado has one option remaining.
If he has an option, then go ahead and option.
I think he has one left.
But I was under the assumption that he wasn't. The difference is with Bobby Bradley and Yu Chang, it seems like that these guys that are borderline and haven't produced are now starting to get the axe, and they're letting the kids play. And that was kind of what they said that they were going to do going into the season. Let's figure out what we have and all these younger guys that are on the 40. I don't think Richie should go down. I think he should continue to get at bats. Like I said, he's batting 326 in 48 plate appearances. So I think he should continue to get opportunities. And if he's getting them from Oscar Mercado, that wouldn't upset me.
Yeah. Well, what we're going to do right now, we're going to take a break, Brian. But what I have to say is going to shock you, and that the best hitter in the Guardians lineup is not Jose Ramirez.
That is wild. I thought you were just going to leave it at what I have to say is going to shock you, and it was going to be in list, and you were going to say like number 3 will blow your mind. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a couple minutes.
We'll be right back.
The R&R podcast going to be rocking and rolling with you because football season is underway. College, Ohio State, the Power Fives, the MAC, the Browns. Michael Regai, are you ready to rock and roll with some football?
Kenny, I've been ready. This is our time of year. This is what R&R is all about. We're going to be with you every week. Kenny just said it, Browns, NFL, Ohio State centric. So you got to stay with us all fall and winter long here on R&R.
That's right. The Regai and Rhoda podcast coming to you here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Subscribe now and don't miss a show.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
For the Dennis Maniloff Show, I'll tap into my 40-plus years of following Cleveland sports and 30-plus years of writing and talking about them, so as to bring you informed opinions and analysis of your favorite players and teams. I also will monitor the national sports scene and, when warranted, step out of the toy department and into the real world. And I'll always be on the lookout for special guests. By all means, join us.
All right, well, we are back from our break. Yes, I don't have a list, Brian, but I'm here to tell you, and I think I have a very good argument for this. Owen Miller has been the unsung hero of our lineup right now because he is a great protector of the man who bats ahead of him, and that is Jose Ramirez.
Now, hang on. Unsung hero, yes. before the break, you said best hitter on the team.
I know that was just a tease. that was just the tease.
Because
that was a little white lie. Little white lie.
Metric is Owen Miller batting better than Jose Ramirez. But
no.
But to your point, Jose would not be able to bat as well and get at bats if it wasn't for, well, do we put Jose on and walk him, and then all of a sudden we're going to get hurt by Owen Miller? Because Owen Miller has continued to perform.
Yeah.
He had a hot start, and he's one of those guys that has not cooled off.
You're right, correct.
To play great, where there's been a couple of guys that have gone back and forth and had some streaky hitting. Owen has not been one of them, and he's been playing great, and another really exciting young player for this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Owen Miller hitting 284. He has 4 home runs, 24 RBIs, 8 doubles. He's played 23 games at first base, 15 games at second base, which I feel is his best spot. And he's actually played 1 game at third. It makes teams really reconsider pitching around Jose Ramirez. If you've got other guys in the lineup that can come through in the clutch, Owen Miller has been that guy, and Josh Naylor has been that guy. And those are the 2 that follow Jose in this lineup. It definitely makes these teams think.
And also somebody who's been very clutch and has really come on, and you've been a big proponent of. I was a little slow to come around on him, but I think he's been fantastic. Andreas Jimenez.
Yes.
And who would have thought that going into June, or now into early June, that Andreas Jimenez would be second in the team in home runs?
You know what? I will continue to say this. I'm going to say this every pod until it happens. I want Andres Jimenez starting at short every night. I know I shocked you the other night when I texted you about Ahmed Rosario. No one abducted me. Nothing happened to me. I know I have been really down on Mr. Rosario, but he's starting to hit the ball. And I really think that he is auditioning for his next team. I will continue to say that.
Yeah, that is probably accurate because he's a free agent. And right. There's enough young up and coming players, as we've talked about, and 40-man guys. And given that Ahmed has kind of bounced back and forth, and they've been asking him to play left and having him play short.
Yep.
But I think you're going to have a pretty set infield here soon of Jose at third, Jimenez at short, Owen Miller at second, and Josh Naylor at first.
Absolutely.
And I think that's almost going to be your everyday middle infield, unless, at times you want to give Jose a rest and put him at DH. And then you have your utility guy in Ernie Clement, who's not just a utility player in the infield, but has been playing some left field at times as well. He's a super utility. Don't
forget about Gabriel Arias as well. He's in AAA and he's healing from an injury. We haven't seen the last of him yet either.
He'll be up. I bet you he's up sometime in August.
I think once they trade Ahmed Rosario, he will be here. I honestly think he'll get the call up and he'll stay. I do. Because they'll slide. I think with Naylor being able to play a little bit of the outfield, they can DH Naylor, they can DH Jose. I mean, all of this is contingent on if Franmil Reyes returns, but we can talk about him in a second. The other guy we talked about, Josh Naylor, dude is electric. Can we just say that? I love his energy. I love just how contagious he is with other guys. I mean, just the excitement he gets. His defense is coming around. He's playing first base and he's manning it well for all the people that were like, oh, Bobby Bradley's gone and now we got to stick Naylor at first. And oh no, Naylor's playing out of his mind right now. He's 287, 6 home runs, 6 doubles. I mean, and he's missed some time because of COVID and it hasn't slowed him down.
Yeah, he's second on the team in RBIs. Naylor's been a surprise for me because I thought that the injury would have him starting slow. It doesn't seem to be the case. I agree. He's a one-man gift machine. And I spent time just cutting gif after gift after gif of his home run celebrations when he brought the team back. So we say this a lot, and we say this a lot through the pod, and we've said this a lot through all of our pods. Even though the record isn't quite where we want it to be, this is a team you should be watching, and there is some exciting play with
even if this team is going to be great for years to come with all this young talent. So go out, watch this team. I mean, unbelievable start. I'm excited.
If you don't count Luke Maley,
which he should be our starting catcher, but that we'll talk about that on our next pod. That's 20 minutes for me. I'm going to rant about Luke Maley. We'll save that for the next one.
But most of our guys, Jose's then the old man on the team at 29 years old.
Yeah.
And everybody else is 27 and younger.
Yep. Guys, get ready. Buckle up, man. It's getting fun. But hold on. We're going to talk about Franmil real quick. Do you think we've seen the last of Franmil? Do you think he can put it together? Or do you think that we can move forward without him in the lineup?
I think they could move forward without him in the lineup. I don't think we've seen the last of him. I think that they're hoping he can figure it out here in his rehab assignments. And then if he continues through the rest of this season and he's not the slugger that we thought he was going to be, and he's not blasting a home run every third day, then he'll probably get moved in the offseason.
Yeah,
because like you said,
I couldn't agree more.
You could put Josh Naylor at DH. There's more guys that are coming up, and there's opportunity because there's not a lot of room on this team for an under 200 batting average slugger.
Unless your name is Austin Hedges and you play catcher, but that'll be our next pod, I promise.
But he's not a slugger.
No, he's not. Although he belted a home run the other night, it was pretty sweet. Anyway, Shane Bieber. We can't end the pod yet. We got to talk about Shane Bieber. Has he finally found it? Shane Bieber has looked almost unhittable. The last 3 starts, 22 innings pitched. He's only given up 17 hits. He has struck out 27, and he's only given up 5 earned runs. And he's back.
He's looked incredible. The last start, obviously, against the Orioles, not a great hitting team, but phenomenal. Now, speaking of those earned runs, I have an issue.
Oh no!
I have an issue with the rule. I have 2 proposals. We could do this one of 2 ways, because Bieber left in the 8th and he put 2 guys on, and De Los Santos plated both of those guys and didn't have a great bullpen outing, and Bieber was on the hook for those 2 runs. Either both the pitchers should split the earned runs if there's inherited runners, or the pitcher that left should only be credited for a run if you left a guy in scoring position. If it's a guy on first base, it should be the inherited pitcher should be credited for that.
Yeah, they got to go back. They got to go back and look at this stuff, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Bieber's been pitching well. He's not the only one that's been affected by this rule. I mean, we've had great starting pitching as of late. Tristan McKenzie, minus today's start where he gave up the long ball a little bit. He's gotten way better. Do you know that he has only walked 16 batters all season?
That's really good.
And that was a struggle for him. He has figured it out.
Yeah.
Tristan McKenzie. So if you think of McKenzie and Quantrill and Bieber and Plesac and Pilkington until Savali comes back, or you run with 6 guys, this team is incredible. Get on board, buckle up, buy a ticket, go watch them. You're going to miss out.
If they can be the pitching staff that they were in May and the hitters that they were in April, this is a top 10 team.
Guys, they're coming. Buy tickets. Go watch this team. I'll leave you with one more thought, Brian. Jose Ramirez is the American League MVP. Done. Sold.
Absolutely. Put it in
sold.
pen. Put it in chisel.
You know what? If he doesn't win 51 RBIs, 14 home runs, the system's broken. He's carrying this team on his back.
Yeah, he's playing incredible. All right, tell everybody where they can find us.
We are Guardians of the Land on Twitter. You can find us at Guardians Land. You can find me on Facebook at Mike Vorhies, on Twitter. Mr. Shaw, where can we find you?
Bryan Shaw on Facebook, at WXSHAW on Twitter.
All right, my friends, until we meet again, this is fun. Get ready.
Talk to you in 2 weeks.
See you guys.
Part of the Press Play Podcast Network.